3 reasons why the Cubs could be in trouble. Number 3, hitting has been a problem, and it's mostly their big boys, right? You have to get PCA, Seiya, and Tucker back on track. And guys, I don't know if it's going to happen. Is it going to happen for all 3? Is it going to happen for 2 out of 3? Is it only going to happen for 1 of the 3?
So that's the part, right? I don't know about all 3 at the same time.
Me either.
But can we get a rotating cast of maybe 1 of the 3 sprinkled out through the rest of the season? And what made this Cubs team so much fun to watch, and I think why everyone got on the wagon and everyone started dreaming really big, was that this offense was scoring big-time runs on a daily basis to start off this season. And even if they would have a couple slide backs for a couple of games, they'd put up an 8 spot, a 9 spot, a 10 spot. That has mostly evaporated over the last few weeks. And it's starting to get to the point of it's not just a mini slump, it's all 3 of these guys, and it's a little bit of Michael Busch too as well. So of all the optimism that we had about how deep the Cubs could go this season, the hitting has to come around right now to get some of that optimism back.
And that's what's made this past stretch so brutal for the Cubs, too. Typically, you'll run through a slump of Kyle Tucker not hitting for 2 weeks or Seiya Suzuki not hitting for a couple of weeks, but it all lining up at the same time. That's what's really been the problem. You wouldn't notice it as much if it was only one person at a time. It is a funk for just about everybody in that lineup.
Yes, the whispers underneath. Is the pressure too much for PCA? Is Tucker actually hurt? Is Seiya only good if Tucker's hitting? We'll find out. So that's number 3. The big boys aren't hitting. Number 2, are the Brewers ever going to lose?
Oh,
do they have the Devil's Potion? Like, what do they have going on? They got Potion? They got Voodoo Dolls? How are the Brewers good again?
They got motion in the potion ocean is what's going on, Luke, right? They've got something.
They have Voodoo Dolls is what I think.
Pun intended. They have something brewing right now. I believe that they're 41-16 over their last 57 games.
Yuck.
And trust me, if you're watching this video, and we appreciate that you are, that number might have already changed because they might have already won another game. Jackson Churrios on the IL doesn't seem to matter. The Miz, the all-star whiz kid, is on the IL. Doesn't seem to matter. And they've got the horses up front with the rotation with Woodruff and Peralta. Not quite buying the offense, but no one's bought that offense all season long, and now all of a sudden they have a better run differential than the Cubs. They're coming up just behind them on runs scored for the season. I mean, Patrick, what do we got to do?
We took their manager.
We took their manager. What else?
We've got a Nancy Kerrigan, Andrew Vaughn,
No,
right?
no.
Okay, no.
That's not right.
No, of course not. No, but you gotta stick with it. You gotta trust the process. You've gotta really just hope that the Brewers eventually play like they did in April and May, and that the Cubs also play like they were in April and May. Will that happen? I don't know. The thing is, if the Brewers continue on the stretch that they're on, they'll win, 110 games? And I don't see that happening. I think that they'll come back down to earth.
So number 3 was the big boys aren't hitting. That's one reason to be worried that they might be in trouble. Number 2 is the Brewers, whatever kind of voodoo they have going on. And number 1 is, of course, the biggest problem it's been this season. Do the Cubs have enough pitching? And they didn't really address it correctly at the trade deadline. So will the Cubs have enough arms to get to the finish line in the division?
Outside of Shota Imanaga, I think even the pitchers that are having the best season for the Cubs right now, I think you can say, well, what if this happens? Matthew Boyd and his innings, Cade Horton and his innings, Daniel Palencia, never done it before. So we all knew walking into the trade deadline that this was what the Cubs had to address the most. And yes, they addressed it in terms of more depth and maybe some more live arms and some more bullets for the rotation and the bullpen. But is it going to be enough? And they're also banking on getting some more depth back from possibly Jameson Taillon and Javier Assad. Can you really bank on the health of those players? And even if you get them back healthy, are they going to be productive? It is by far the biggest question mark about the Chicago Cubs over the final 2 months, and I think it is the number 1 reason why we should be possibly scared about what's going to happen the rest of the season for the Cubs and the playoffs.
Joey, you also bring up an interesting name with Daniel Palencia, which is not a name that's discussed widely as a name that, could have issues come September, depending on how the Cubs are playing and what that race looks like. Think about a couple of years ago with Adbert Alzolay, when he was a first-time closer. His September, or leading up to September, he was nails for the Cubs. In September, I think he blew 3 out of his last 4 save opportunities that season. He was never really the same. Obviously, had the injury the next year. You have to worry that Daniel Palencia could have a moment like that as someone who has not had to pitch in that high-leverage September baseball with a playoff spot on the line. That's definitely something to keep in mind.
I just feel like the Cubs didn't double down on the starting pitching, which means all of those small things, whether it's Horton, whether it's Boyd's innings, whether it's Shota's innings, having to trim some of these guys down and say, okay, they can only pitch 5 innings the rest away, that's putting even more pressure on a bullpen that is starting to crumble.